Hello, I'm Pawan Luthra, and we're continuing to talk about COVID, but with a different perspective. We have seen heart-wrenching scenes of overflowing hospitals, patients gasping for air, bodies lying in mortuaries, makeshift funeral pyres on rooftops. We're all trying to comprehend what patients and families are going through in India. But what about the doctors who are the thin red line between life and death? I have with me two doctors from Australia, Dr. Ranjana Srivastava and Dr. Nisha Khot, who are going to give us a peek into what the doctors and nurses and paramedics in India are currently experiencing on a daily basis. Welcome to you both.
Thank you.
Dr. Srivastava, while we got caught up in organizing oxygen and ventilators and raising funds, your concerns have gone to the healthcare professionals. Take us behind the scenes at a COVID care facility. What do you think the doctors are feeling as they walk through a corridor with patients lying or sitting on a floor, gasping for air in a hospital in India at the moment?
Yeah, thank you for that question. I think that it would be fair to say that one could not speak currently from outside of India to the distress and the moral distress that Indian doctors and Indian nurses, health professionals are feeling. I think it is truly unimaginable, especially living in a country like Australia with a very wealthy healthcare system. However, I have many friends who are doctors in India, who are other healthcare professionals, and they describe a scene of ruin, and they describe a scene of enormous fatigue, making very difficult decisions, moral decisions about whom to treat and whom to leave, whose life to sacrifice for whose. And I guess my sense is that these things leave a deep impression and a scar on a person for a long time. So really your heart goes out to every Indian professional working in these circumstances of even poorer resources than they are used to.
Dr. Khot, would you like to say something on that?
I suppose having worked in an Indian hospital, albeit almost 2 decades ago, one of the things that really struck me was that in India, yes, there's a shortage of supplies and equipment and drugs and various things, but oxygen is the one thing that has always been present. Even if you went to a small primary health center, which was located in a little village, you would still get oxygen. And I think my heart really sinks when I hear the stories that patients can't be given oxygen. I just cannot even imagine how my colleagues in India are managing to deal with that situation where they are not able to give the very basics of care. We are not even talking about, new drugs or very expensive drugs or anything like that. This is just oxygen. I just cannot put myself in their shoes.
Look, I've seen videos of trained doctors crying because they couldn't get that basic thing in life, oxygen to the patients. But tell me, how would a doctor decide that I only have 4 hours of oxygen and I got 20 patients to take care of? How would they even, isn't that heart-wrenching? It's like playing God and you're still a human being.
Absolutely. And that is the sort of thing that is going to leave scars on everyone forever. I don't think any health professional can get over that kind of decision making around who do I save and who do I sacrifice. That's just, we don't want to play God. We never want to play God as doctors. We just want to do the best we can for every single patient that we see. And when we are not able to do that, that is just something I don't think we'll ever recover from.
Ranjana, in terms of the doctor's patient ratio is going to be very, very low at the moment. How do the doctors get themselves out of bed every morning to go and face a catastrophe which is actually going to be in front of them?
That's a good question, Pawan. And one of the things I've often sort of joked about is when you see Indian doctors in Australia, especially serving in rural communities, and often we will have this conversation about, I distinctly remember saying to a doctor who was from Punjab, who was manning a rural hospital, and I said, "How many patients did you see in emergency today?" And he said, "Oh, I saw maybe 50." And I said, "That's a lot of patients you saw." And he says, "I used to see 200 in India. This is nothing." And he looked at me and so I think Indian doctors always, and especially people who have trained and worked in India, have often been used to seeing volumes of patients and getting through many, many patients. But I think currently, as Nisha has described, there is such a scarcity of resources that it's not, and so many patients are dying that it must be terribly difficult being a doctor or any other health provider at this time. And I think it is especially compounded by the fact, as I am seeing with my medical colleagues, not only do your patients, but also your family and your relatives and your friends rely on you. So everybody is at you for information, for advice, for connections. And it is genuinely a time where people are trying to put one foot in front of the other, and they have closed off a lot of other things from their mind to just focus on the day to day. It's very compelling.
Ranjana, you're an oncologist. It's a tough profession because obviously people come to you at times of when they've got cancer. You have to be gentle with them. You have to be patient with them. You have to be explain to them a number of things. Doctors don't have that kind of a space in India at the moment. How do they actually talk to their patients at times like this when there's death and everything around you and people are so much in a panic situation?
I think doctor-patient communication in India still has a long way to go. I think it's because of the volume of patients that doctors see, the culture of paternalism that still exists in India, where the doctor, the doctor says something and you follow it, you don't question the doctor. And the system is evolving slowly, but has a long way to go, even in the best of times. So you can just imagine that in the worst of times that India is facing now, all those things are again taking a back seat. I think people are doing the best that they can. Personally, it has been very confronting to see doctors and other health professionals being attacked in various parts of India as people's anger and impatience and distress spills over. But I think in general, all of India and the world recognizes how tough doctors are doing. And we saw this in New York City when people came out with their pots and pans and they banged their pots and pans every night in recognition of people on the front line. I would say that the difference is that the frontline doctors in India that other professionals have. And all I hope is that people who are their patients and the world around us shows them the respect and the concern that they so deserve.
Dr. Nisha, let's talk about the early career doctors. They've been thrust into a war-like situation with very little professional experience. Suggestions are that they need guidance as seniors are falling sick themselves and the younger doctors have no one to mentor them. What do you think they would be going through at this stage?
Look, being a junior doctor in India is a tough gig at any time. And this is going to be particularly tough for them. On the one hand, there will be a very steep learning curve. They will learn things very, very quickly because there's no choice. They have to learn them. They learn lots of skills very quickly. But yes, that mentoring of actually refining those skills and knowing when to use them and how to use them is seriously something that will be missing for a while. And I think there's a role for that for the doctors. There's so many Indian diaspora doctors across the world who have worked in India and understand the situation in India. And there's a role for all of us to step in and provide that guidance and mentoring from far away,
So
because that's about all we
how
can
can
do.
you do it as senior doctors in Australia to mentor, guide, show support for these frontline warriors in India at the moment?
You know, we are holding a vigil next Saturday in
Can you tell us
Federation
more
Square,
about
and
that,
the
please?
vigil is just to show our support and solidarity for all healthcare workers who are having a really tough time in India. It's also to show solidarity and support for healthcare workers who are in Australia but have Indian origin and so have family and friends in India for whom they are concerned. And, you know, people here are also having a tough time trying to negotiate the stuff that is happening back home in India. And so that is the purpose of the vigil, but that's just 2 hours in Federation Square, which is great. It's an opportunity for the community to come together. But in the long term, I think there's certainly a role for all of us to step up and provide that long distance mentoring and support for junior doctors in India.
Ranjana, can you tell us more about the vigil? What time, where, and what should people, should they bring something? Please share. What should we expect next week?
Sure. So as Nisha said, the vigil was really born out of feeling a very personal sense of helplessness and impotence as we watch the plight of India and our Indian colleagues from such a long distance away. Suddenly, I think the distance between India and Australia seems so much more magnified than it has ever been. And so a group of five of us, 5 doctors, who range from general practice to delivering babies to treating cancer, decided, you know, one thing we can hold on to even when we feel powerless is our sense of compassion and our sense of empathy. And so this is where the India Solidarity Vigil was born. It is being held on the 15th of May, next Saturday, between 4 p.m. and 6 p.m. at the amphitheater in Federation Square. The amphitheater faces Flinders Street. Mm-hmm. We are going to have a series of songs, some short speeches, but I would say that in the main, this event is an occasion for us to come together as a community and grieve for what's going on. And we need to provide a space for such grieving. And we're very, very proud that that the community is supporting our vigil.
No, that's fantastic, because I've come across a number of instances of people directly affected, either their own families or very close friends of theirs or somebody whom they've grown up with who's become a victim of this pandemic in India. So the vigil is on Saturday, the 15th, between 4 and 6 p.m. at Federation Square. And the idea is to get people together to say thank you to the frontline workers, but also for people to gather to just comfort each other, show compassion towards each other at this time.
Correct. And we'll also have some books of condolences that we will be signing. And the aim is to eventually get them across to our Indian colleagues. And I know already from speaking to some Indian health professionals how grateful they are and how struck they are that we would be thinking of them. So I really hope that people show up, even if for a little while, they show their support, they say something in the condolence book, and that the event, that we make the event a success.
And I understand there's a Facebook page set up for the vigil.
That's right, Pawan. It is called India Grieves. And it's very easy to find on Facebook. And just, you asked Ranjana earlier what people should bring. Bring a pen to write in the condolence book. If possible, wear something white, because white is the color of mourning in most of the countries that we come from. And so if possible, a white scarf or a white headband, whatever you can find it. You don't have to, but if you can find it, please do wear it, and bring a pen to sign the condolence book. That's all you need to bring. And bring your heart, bring your soul.
And Pawan, I must tell you about our Twitter group, the Vigil Aunties. Okay. So that was Nisha's brainchild, and I personally, I was tickled pink by it, because not so long ago, I happened to be shopping and somebody across many aisles, I heard this, "Hello, auntie," and I kept walking, thinking, surely this doesn't happen. I didn't even think beyond hearing the "hello, auntie," and then a few minutes later, this voice pipes up even more strongly, and people begin looking, "Hello, auntie," and my husband says, "I think he means you." And that was my moment of realization that I had become an auntie. So I was tickled pink by the fact that we are now considered at auntie stage, and very proud to call myself a Vigil auntie.
Why not? With all the experience and knowledge and wisdom which we have, it's good to be called aunties and uncles, but also the compassion which has been built into us, has been ingrained into us from a childhood, and also how we can all show it together when we see each other on Saturday the 15th between 4 and 6 o'clock at Federation Square. Dr. Nisha Khot, Dr. Ranjana Srivastava, thank you very much for joining us on this special edition, and all the best for next week.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, and good luck to everyone listening.
Thank you.